Police officers, what's the dumbest thing you've ever seen a criminal do or say? DUI trial. Defendant chooses to represent herself. She tries to introduce evidence during the trial, but is quickly blocked by the prosecution. The judge, maybe taking pity on the flaming train wreck that was this woman's defense, asks to see the evidence. It was a receipt from the bar she left before I stopped her that showed that she purchased 2 large margaritas. Her whole defense was, I couldn't have been drunk after only 2 margaritas. She was found guilty. My initial reason for stopping her was that she drove down an embankment on the side of the road to get to a McDonald's drive-thru. Woman is waiting for her DUI trial in the courtroom. The lawyers and judge are milling around and getting their paperwork in order. Trial starts in 10 to 15 minutes. The prosecuting attorney asks her if she wants to take the plea deal one last time. She refuses and goes on about how this is unconstitutional and the police and courts are corrupt, and how is she going to take her kid to school, blah blah blah. She is starting to cause a bit of scene, yelling, acting like a child, just being generally annoying. Someone in the room gets a whiff of alcohol. She is out on bond, so she can basically be given a PBT at any time for any reason. Judge orders one on her. She registers a 0.226 in court. This woman who is on trial for DUI had the audacity to drive to court drunk and then moan and groan about how she isn't being treated fairly and we are all corrupt and this is unconstitutional. Not only that, but it explicitly states in your bond conditions that you cannot consume alcohol. So I cuff her and bring her to the jail. She's still running her mouth during the walkover. I had nothing to say. I had absolutely zero sympathy for her. I could barely hold in my laughter on the walkover to the jail. In a city near to me, a guy murdered a woman, put her body in a large garment bag, and left her in a vacant lot. Unfortunately for him, he forgot to take the tags with his name and address off the bag from a recent flight. A would-be bank robber wrote his hold-up note and put it into his wallet. He got rattled at the bank and accidentally left his driver's license on the counter. When he handed the note to a teller, a third crook just took on more than he could handle and apparently didn't watch the time. He had a long history of grand theft auto and was hospitalized after being badly beaten in the parking lot of a sports area after a lacrosse game. The guy swore up and down that he had no idea why anyone would assault him there. Not a police officer, but a witness to a crime who had to give evidence in court. Basically witnessed a girl crashing her car and barrel rolling it into a tree. She was clearly drunk. The fireman arrived after 10 minutes. Her car had leaked petrol everywhere. Then her husband shows up on foot and tries to calm her down, followed by her mother in a car and the police. She tried to claim that she wasn't the one driving, even though no one else had been in the car. In court a year later, she said her mother had been driving, the one who showed up in her own car 10 minutes after the crash. She also punched an officer in the face and was pepper sprayed, but that's a whole other story. Needless to say, she was found guilty. Not a cop, but rode along frequently as part of a training program. The dumbest thing I saw someone do involved one of those dog crates that you can carry, like for a small dog such as a chihuahua. This woman was having a dispute with some people who had their dog in one of those carry kennels sitting on the ground. There were 3 officers at the scene. The woman was given a ticket and tossed it on the ground. She was told, pick that up or you will be arrested for littering. When she picked it up, she kicked the dog kennel hard enough to make it barrel roll. She was immediately and aggressively taken into custody and charged with animal cruelty. Let's hate this woman because she was the most annoying person I have ever interacted with. She called 911 to say that there were people she didn't know squatting in her garage apartment and they had a knife. We got there and the squatters had tons of regular people belongings that did not match the profile of squatters. Additionally, all of their belongings were strewn along the ground outside in the alleyway. They had texts proving that they had been renting from her and they said that they were 2 days late on rent. She went crazy and threw all of their stuff outside. The knife that they supposedly had was one of their steak knives that had come out of a shelf that she dumped in the alley. She had also allegedly shoved one of them. By the time we had sorted this all out, the woman had vanished. The officer told them to go ahead and put their stuff back inside and that she'd have to evict them. At this point they didn't want to press any charges, so we just left to drive around and told them to call back if they had more problems. They called back within 10 minutes. she'd come back and shoved one of them, throwing another temper tantrum. The ticket she got was for assault by contact, and the rest is history. Tossed the ticket on the ground, kicked their dog, and got taken to jail. The best part was that the whole ride to jail she was continuing her tantrum, asking how she was going to jail when she called the police and she didn't do anything wrong. No matter how many times she said that she didn't do anything wrong, or that she shouldn't go to jail though, that's exactly where she ended up. Copied mine from a previous similar thread in law enforcement, but not a regular cop. Middle of search warrant looking for a bloke. Lots of drug convictions in the past. Found a still burning blunt in the ashtray in the living room, but no sign of the guy in the house. I'm 99% sure he is in the roof cavity. I announced to my partner I think he is up there. Should we look? Suddenly the ceiling starts talking. Hear the softest no. He points. Can they hear me? Nah, it's all good. So my partner said nah man, I didn't hear that guy say we shouldn't look up there. Ceiling replies with sweet. I knew they wouldn't find me. Needless to say we looked and pulled a very stoned guy out from under the insulation bats. Side note, they make you itchy af, so be careful choosing your hiding spots when you're stoned. That reminds me of a joke that my dad likes to tell all the time. So Tito's partisans were hiding from Nazis in a well. The Nazis come looking for them and start talking. One Nazi said, maybe they are hiding in the forest. And the partisans, imitating echo from the well, repeat, maybe they are hiding in the forest. The other Nazi says, maybe they're in the village. And they repeat, maybe they're in the village. Then the third one says, maybe they're in the well. To which the partisans echo, maybe they're in the village. Friend who is an officer told me this one a little bit ago. He was driving near where a known car thief lived, so he stops by, sub in the driveway with no tags, walks up, runs the VIN. Stolen. Now the property had a house on it, and then out back, a small mother-in-law suite, where said thief lived. Officer walks out back, knocks, and then hears a car door. Officer starts running, engine starts, and yup, thief is driving away in the stolen SUV. Officer knows where he ditches stolen cars at, so has an officer stake out that area. Sure enough, 2 hours later the SUV rolls up with a Jeep following it. SUV driver wipes down the dash, wipes down the outside door handle, and gets in the Jeep. Officer pulls them over and arrests them both. Why both? The Jeep is stolen. Officer runs her license, send another officer to her address, and guess what? She had a stolen car at her place too. 3 stolen cars recovered, 2 people in jail, all because one officer decided to stop by a thief's last address. My bill is a cop in a small town. Pulled a car over one night, recognized the kid, smelled weed inside the car, and said give me the weed and I won't search your car, won't give you a ticket, and you can be on your way. Kid fights him, says he doesn't know what that smell is, there's no weed, and how can I trust that you won't take me to the station if I give it to you. Bill promises again that if he hands in the weed, he will let him go. No questions asked. Kid keeps being a moron. Bill searches the car and finds many more drugs hidden all over, as well as weed. Bill says alright, let's go to the station. Kid gets upset and says you said you weren't going to do this. See, I couldn't trust you. I groan and laugh every time I think of that. What a dummy. Not a cop, but my brother was. He told me that this one time he took lunch at Pope's while in uniform except for the hat. Once inside, the cashier started taking his order, then stopped halfway and turned to a coworker that just walked up. I don't remember exactly what was said, but basically the guy taking my brother's order asks the other guy if he took his weed. The other guy says yes, but he didn't smoke it all, and proceeded to hand him over the weed. The guy then says cool, not to worry, that he's got another stash in his car for emergencies like this. My brother then said that he just wanted to eat some lunch. The guys then realized he was a cop. One guy said something like not again. As my brother started arresting the cashier, he said that he thought my brother was the security guard. So my brother, just trying to make a joke out of it, says, oh, you smoke pot with your security guard? To which the guy says no, just my manager and his buddy. But the real funny part was when he asked another employee there if the security guard was around, and the employee said they didn't have one and didn't know what that cashier was talking about.